everyone, and welcome. This is a debate featuring each of the 6 declared candidates for District 5 of the Omaha, Nebraska City Council. This is a debate sponsored, a Zoom debate sponsored by the Southwest Omaha Neighborhood Association. I'm Jim Rose from News Radio 1110 KFAB, and we are pleased to have with us Colleen Brennan, Kathleen Kauth, Patrick Leahy, Jeff Moore, Don Rowe, and Destiny Stark. Essentially, this is what we have in mind. Today, we will allow all of you the opportunity to speak on approximately 4 topics. We will then have an opportunity for some of our constituents in District 5 to ask questions too. I'll ask all of the questions and keep time on each of you. Our first segment will allow you 3 minutes to introduce yourselves and make an opening statement about your campaign. The next segment will be 12 minutes on each topic, and those topics tonight are public safety, property taxes, public response to the pandemic, and the impact of remote learning in the Omaha metropolitan area. We'll spend 10 minutes taking questions from the Zoom audience. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer that question. Then each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for closing statements. We would like each of you to give me a number between 1 and 20. That will dictate our initial order. And after the person who comes closest to the number that I've chosen, between 1 and 20, we will go in alphabetical order after that. So I have a number in mind, and if anyone gets the number, hits it on the head, then they win automatically. How about that? Let's start with Colleen Brennan. Colleen, a number between 1 and 20.
7.
Colleen says 7. Kathleen, a number between 1 and 20. Kathleen, is Kathleen unmuted? Yes, we need Kathleen unmuted. There we go. Yes, your number, Kathleen, between 1 and 20. Okay, we still can't hear Kathleen. That's not going to be good for Kathleen. Go ahead, Kathleen. There you are.
17.
17, there we go. Patrick, a number between 1 and 20.
14.
Jeff, a number between 1 and 20.
10.
Don, a number between 1 and 20.
3.
And Destiny, a number between 1 and 20.
11.
Congratulations to Colleen. My number was 6, so Colleen Brennan gets first crack at our debate here tonight. So Colleen, please, and then after her, we will go with Kathleen, and then Patrick, Jeff, Don, and Destiny in alphabetical order. So our first segment here tonight, 3 minutes. Each candidate will introduce themselves and make an opening statement. Colleen Brennan, the floor is yours.
My name is Colleen Brennan. I am City Councilwoman for District 5. The reason I ran for office initially was I really wanted to show my kids that politics doesn't have to be partisan to be effective. City Council gives me that opportunity to do just that because it is a nonpartisan office. I want to bring some integrity into politics. I want to be a problem solver. I want to be someone who listens to all sides and makes decisions based on facts. And I just really want to do the best I can to serve my community, listen to what their needs are, and get those needs met.
Very good. Thank you, Colleen. Kathleen Kauth, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Kathleen Kauth. I am a mediator and conflict coach. I own my own business and I work with organizations helping them untangle dysfunctional teams. And I work with CEOs helping them learn how to speak directly and deal with conflicts quickly so that they don't escalate. I also do elder care mediation, which is working with older adults and their families as they have to make some very, very difficult decisions. So working with people in difficult situations, getting people to talk to each other and listen to each other and see different sides of things is the best way to get creative problem solving going. We moved here from Iowa 8.5 years ago. This is our 7th location and we fell in love. We're not ever leaving. This is our home. We love Omaha and we want to continue making it amazing. We have been in the Millard School District and are so happy with everything about what we have here. So it's been a great ride and it's an honor to try to serve everyone.
Thank you, Kathleen. Patrick Leahy, you have 3 minutes.
Jim, can I go last? I had to drive back from a meeting
and I'll be back at the office in about just a few minutes, like 7 minutes or so.
Not a problem. With that, let's go to Jeff Moore. Jeff, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Moore, and I am a lifelong Omaha resident. I've lived in Millard for the past 20 years, and I am a small business owner. I'm a State Farm agent for 32 years. Currently, I serve on the Omaha Planning Board. I was appointed by Mayor Stothert 4 years ago, and I'm running because I am a customer relations kind of person, and I think that some of that's been lacking in getting back to our constituents. I'd like to take care of their questions, ask for their solutions, work with people. My agenda is really Omaha. I'd like to see it become more of a destination. I'd like to bring in people from the Midwest so that we can get tax money from them for our bars, for our restaurants, for jobs. And I'm really an open book. Omaha is my agenda. I look at it as I work for them, work for the citizens. I don't work for the party. I will work with people that are serving on the board. And I look forward to meeting people as this process continues. And I've met some of the candidates already, and I've made friends with some of them. And I look forward to meeting the rest of you. And I look forward to the questions tonight. And so I appreciate this forum very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. And now to Don Rowe. Don, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Don Rowe. I actually grew up in Omaha. My early years were spent up in North Omaha. I like to tell stories about standing on the corner of Fontenelle Boulevard and Grand Avenue with my safety patrol belt on. And it might have been minus 31 on some of those days. I don't recall that for sure, but those were fun days up there. Our family moved to Papillion. I spent my high school days there, graduated from Papillion High School, and then I ended up at the University of Nebraska, where I met my wife. And then we kind of stuck in Lincoln for a while. As you know, Jim, we met down there, and my work brought me to Omaha, and I've been with Millard Lumber for about 25 years, and have grown to really love Omaha again, and Southwest and the Millard part. And so that's my hope, is that as I wind down my career here at Millard Lumber, I can use my talents, the skills that I've gained in my work to help the city grow and develop and be the gem that it can be.
Thank you, Don. Destiny Stark. Destiny, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Destiny Stark. I am a IATSC Local 42 Union Journeyman Stagehand. I also serve my membership as the corresponding recording secretary, among other volunteer committees that I serve on, or chair or co-chair. I actually started my career 19 years ago at Millard South through the theater program there. So I grew up in Millard. I've lived in and around District 5 since 1996, and I moved here. I want to bring, this past year has taught us that we need a voice of labor to represent who Omaha currently is and who we will be in the future. So I want to use my skills as secretary and as a union member to gather this information, share it, distribute it. Our past council member did not do that so much with social media. I will also host town halls, virtual town halls if need be, in person. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up for me right now.
Okay. Is Patrick ready? Patrick, would you like to take your 3 minutes now?
Sure, I'll do it. It'll be better here in about 5 minutes, but I'll go ahead. I'm Patrick Leahy. I'm an architect. I've lived in Omaha my whole life. I've got three daughters and a son, and 3 son-in-laws and 2 granddaughters, 8 months and 15 months old. I've also, I voted in every city election, and I've also been elected to the community college board for 10 years, and brought that attitude of listening to my constituents, and also looking long range to the best value that the citizens and taxpayers could have, and brought the first long range plan they had for the 4 county service area, which includes all of Omaha metropolitan area. Also, I've been on 3 neighborhood associations as I've moved. I'm currently the secretary of the Mission Park Neighborhood Association. So I understand neighborhoods and what makes them work and how to make them stronger, as well as business. In my role as an architect, I have to facilitate teams, mostly healthcare, and they've got 27 departments. I have developed consensus along with leadership, the communities, past bond issues. So I've done this before, and I want to make the city better. I want to focus on economic development, which I have a lot of history with. I want to bring consensus building, which I do every day. I want to take care of the health, safety, and welfare, and also enhancing economic development. And there is, I forgot the third one for right now, but yeah, I love the city and I want to make it better.
Very good. Thank you, Patrick. I would remind all of our candidates that this Zoom session is being recorded, and there is a strong possibility that members of the news media in Omaha will be watching. So just to give you a heads up on that. So your answers could very well be recorded and appear on other platforms between now and primary day, which is April the 6th. So let's move now into the topics that we have in store for our audience here tonight. Let's begin with public safety, and we will begin with Kathleen Kauth. This last summer, Kathleen and candidates, the city of Omaha underwent some very scary moments, and personal property was destroyed in 2 parts of town, and it caused considerable fear and concern among the city's citizens about whether or not they would be safe. If you were in control of public safety during those times, during those tumultuous times last summer during the riots here in Omaha, what policy differences would you have by comparison to the city council and the mayor at the time? And what would you say to the owners of the personal property that was destroyed by the riots? Let's begin with Kathleen. You're up, Kathleen, and you have 2 minutes.
So as far as what I would do differently, I think they actually handled it quite well with the curfews and getting the National Guard involved. I might have done it sooner, basing it off of all of the things that were going on around the country. The first hint of something like that, I think we should have had more of a National Guard presence ready, or at least let people know that that was in the offing. But I think it was handled very, very well. As far as for the people whose property was destroyed, I feel nothing but compassion. That's, everyone has the right to protest. No one has the right to destroy someone else's property. And we need to make sure that people who do that are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because that is something that it spreads like wildfire when people don't have any consequences for their actions. So I think they've done a good job as far as figuring out who was involved and making sure that they were prosecuted. But that's something that we need to make sure is very visible, that when you do something destructive, there are definite consequences.
Very good. Patrick Leahy, based on the events of last summer, from a policy standpoint, how would you differ, if at all, from the current members of the city council, the mayor, and law enforcement in the community? You have 2 minutes.
Did you say my name?
Yes, Patrick, you're next.
Oh, can you give me just a few minutes? I'm going in the office right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
We hope you're designing the largest building in the history of Nebraska, so you're getting all of this slack here. Jeff Moore, the question for you: if you had been on the city council, how would you have differed with how the policy was enacted to keep Omaha safe during the riots last year? And what do you have to say to those who suffered personal property loss as a result of it?
I'm a big proponent of the law enforcement and first responders. I thought they did a tremendous job. I would have liked to seen a unified council saying that we're all moving in the same direction to allow peaceful protest, because that is our First Amendment right. But at the same token, when you destroy things, that is no longer a protest, that is a riot. And when you have a riot and you have destruction of property, then you have to be dealt with according to the law. And I know there were some arrests, and I know some people felt that they were not given their rights to continue to protest. But at that point, it seemed like it was getting dangerous and needed to be shut down again. I thought we all did a very nice job. To the people that lost property, again, I'm in the insurance business. So when that destruction occurs, people have to pay their deductibles. The insurance companies have to come in and pay for the property. Some people may not have insurance and then wind up having a loss. You board up your buildings, you make Omaha look bad because we're waiting for another shoe to drop. And it's not good for visitation for people to come into the city for. What I'd like to see, well, the National Guard did come in, I believe, after 3 days, and things settled down. I thought we did a nice job. I'd like to see us unified when we come out and speak about the protest. But other than that, I think we did a fine job.
Don Rowe, public safety. In light of last summer's riots, what would you do differently if you had served on the city council or were in a decision-making capacity? And what message do you have to those Omahans who suffered personal property loss as a result of the riots? 2 minutes.
Well, you know, I have a friend that has a business down there. He's a partner with Fraser Stryker. And I went down to visit him, and it broke my heart to see the buildings boarded up in downtown Omaha. That was a considerable bruise to our economy, a bruise to our culture, a bruise to our psyche, really. I can tell you one thing that I will not do, and that would be, I would never vote to defund the police. I think that it's important that we have a strong police force, that we have a well-trained police force, and I think I would vote kind of like our current council did, to make sure that our people have proper training and that they're properly funded to have the tools that they need to respond to an unfortunate situation like we had last summer.
Destiny Stark, question for you. In light of last year's riots in Omaha, both in the Old Market and near Crossroads, what would you have done differently if you had been serving on the city council or had decision-making capacity? And what message do you have for those who lost personal property as a result of the riots? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, we actually had folks from my local go down and help board up some of the buildings downtown. And they were kind enough to help some other neighbors as well. We also had folks go down and we did some cleaning up after the fact, you know, help clean up graffiti and clean up trash. So really, I think I'd go down and help be part of the solution of cleaning up after the fact for any event like that. You need to make sure that you are leading by example, and that's exactly what I would do to those that had their businesses that had occurred any damage. I understand it is truly awful. And yeah, like Jeff Moore said, your insurance may have gone up for your deductible, but that is something that we need to focus on why it was happening and make sure that we are moving towards solutions to ensure that everyone is properly represented and everyone is safe at all times.
Pat, are you ready to answer the question now? Patrick Leahy. Patrick is muted. Patrick, are you ready to answer the question now?
Yes, I'm ready.
Very good.
I'm trying to bring my computer up so
you're
it's better
fine.
than the phone, but this will work. When it comes to this issue, I think everybody did the best they could, knowing what they could at the time. And I agree with a lot that's been said, but what I'd like to add to that is, number one, I 100% fund the police. I have friends that are police officers and people I've met as I've gone door to door. And the first thing that's cut, if you cut any funding to police, is training. Number two, what we need to do is more training, make sure they have the right equipment. And I think community policing is very powerful. They get to be members of the community. And we need to have more listening sessions, create committees of people that in the community that are not being heard, so they have an outlet to be heard, so that we can handle this in a better way than just being reactive, but being proactive. I think what they did, their curfews and telling people you don't leave by sundown, we're gonna start hauling you in. That was the right thing to do. It protected property once they got that going, but we can do more.
Very good. We have some extra time because very few of you actually took up the 2 minutes. So let me get a yes or no answer from all of you, beginning with Destiny Stark. I'm sorry, we get a timeout by Kathleen.
Colleen didn't get a chance to answer.
I'm sorry. Oh, Colleen, I'm sorry. Yes, we got to go back to the top of the chart. I beg your pardon. Yes,
Sorry.
Colleen, please. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kathleen. We've got through the yellow flag. Colleen, please tell us, in light of last year's riots in downtown Omaha and the Old Market and by Crossroads, what would you have done differently had you been seated on the city council at the time? And in a decision-making capacity, what policy differences would you have or do you have with those who did? And what message do you have for those who suffered personal property loss as a result of the riots? 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, like Jeff Moore, I'm also in the insurance industry, so I understand that side of it very well, how destruction of property will jack up your premiums, right? That's not an unknown. As far as the police are concerned, I support them 100%. I am absolutely against defunding the police. I think that's irresponsible. I think we need to make sure we give them all the resources we possibly can so that they can do their job effectively. Now, that said, I'm not opposed to doing things in addition to funding the police, like making sure that there are certain instances when maybe we bring in a social worker as opposed to just a police officer. Maybe there's a situation, if it's a domestic dispute, where what we need is a mental health practitioner there to maybe de-escalate the situation. I'm not opposed to that. I think we need to, I'm not opposed to sensitivity training or any of those things in addition to funding the police. As far as how I would have handled it last summer, I think we did a great job. I think the curfews were effective. I think we gave fair warning. We gave fair warning. If you're not out of there by 11 o'clock, you're going to get arrested. That is perfectly acceptable response. I also agree with Patrick when he talks about community policing. I mean, what we need to do is build relationships between the community and the police officers so that there's to reduce the animosity. I'm fully aware that there are some issues, but we need to support our police. We need to support our firefighters and our first responders.
Very good. Thank you, Colleen. As I mentioned, we got a little extra time, so a yes or no answer from each of you. We'll start with Destiny. There has been a larger national narrative started up this last week about reparations for slavery. There has also been a national effort to allow for those who lease property, suspension of lease payments in light of the pandemic. But if it were up to you, would those who suffered property damage during the riots last summer, should they receive some reparation from the community for their property? And we'll start with Destiny Stark. Yes or no, Destiny?
No.
Don Rowe?
No.
Jeff Moore?
No.
Patrick Leahy?
No.
Kathleen Cow?
No.
Colleen Brennan?
No.
Okay, all right. Let's move to property taxes, which has consistently been among the most important issues among voters polled around election time. Property taxes in Omaha, and in particular, tax increment financing. The city receives a significantly smaller share of property taxes than, say, the school districts. Nevertheless, it's a significant amount of money, and property taxes in Omaha are exceedingly high. Property taxes in Nebraska are among the highest in the country. From your perspective, what is the most important part of this issue? Is it serious? And what can you as a city council person do to put in place systemic, sustainable, long-term property tax relief? And what alternatives might you have in proposing revenue streams to offset the need to collect higher property taxes? We'll begin with Destiny Stark. Destiny, you have 2 minutes.
Can you repeat the question?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, property taxes have consistently been among the most important issues according to voters polled around election time. Even though the city of Omaha collects a sizably smaller amount than, say, the school district, it's still significant, and it still is causing a number of Omahans to lose their homes or certainly forcing them out of state. The state of Nebraska has some of the highest property taxes in the country. As a matter of policy, where do you stand on property taxes, and what alternatives do you have, would you propose, to offset the need to collect higher property taxes to fund city, state, and school services? Destiny?
Thank you. They are too high. I agree. We can do things such as pass medical and recreational marijuana and collect the taxes from that. As well, oh gosh, I'm terribly sorry. I'm blinking on the next part that I had. always how it works.
That's all right.
No, it's not all right. As well, I think that we give out TIF a little too generously sometimes. And I think that we really need to do a little bit more of our homework before we assess that. Sorry, Patrick's mic is hot. So before we give them out, we definitely need to start assessing and making sure that folks that are being granted TIFs are making sure that they are using the most modern, green, sustainable resources firsthand. That way, once we go ahead and that building is complete, we know that it is going to be solid and you're not going to have drafty windows or other things that make your energy efficiency go out the front door or out the windows.
Okay, thank you. Don Rowe, property taxes, where do you stand on them? What would you do as a matter of policy to lower them? Or do you even think that's an important issue that should be before the elected officials in Omaha?
No, I agree that the taxes are plenty high. We pay plenty of high taxes. I looked it up. We have $191 million from property tax to fund our city services. Sales tax, about $175 million. The restaurant tax, $35 million, that we thought was going to go away a few years ago. I don't think that's ever going to go away. We've gotten too accustomed to spending those dollars. And then there's other taxes that I can't even identify that add up to millions and millions of dollars. So I say no more new taxes, no more higher taxes. We're paying high enough taxes as it is. So how do we fund it then? We have to fund it through growing our city. We need to focus on economic development that makes sense. And I believe that TIF financing is one way. I'm all for TIF. If we can take low producing property and help out with TIF financing and turn it into market rate, properties that's paying a full ride on their taxes, that's going to help us all. It lifts the whole boat. And so I'm not afraid of TIF. I understand how it works, and I think it's a good tool for our development community to use. But I'm not for any more new taxes. I pay plenty. You've seen your tax bill go up because of the increased valuation of our homes. And so, I think my bill went up 8% last year, and I didn't do anything different other than my net worth went up. But now I've got to find the cash to pay for the taxes. So I say no more new taxes.
Thank you. Jeff Moore, property taxes for you. How bad is the problem? What would you do to fix it? And if we lower property taxes, what revenue streams would you propose we use to make up the difference? Or should we simply cut spending, something like that? 2 minutes.
Well, I agree with Don. We have high enough taxes as it is. We get a lot of complaints from citizens about streets or about snow. And there is a fine line about asking for excellent service and saying, I want my taxes lowered. That's a tough call. So the only thing you can do on that is look at spending and see if we can run the city government more like a business where we maybe have incentives to get the roads fixed quicker. But I'd like to look at that through a business owner's eyes to see how that works. But I think that as a volunteer at the Omaha Visitor Center for 7 years, I've seen people come in from all over the Midwest. And my wife and I always ask, what brings you to Omaha? And they tell us why they're here. But I want to make Omaha a destination for the Midwest. When we can bring more people in that will be paying tax dollars, maybe that's going to lessen our tax burden. The other thing is that if we can get people to come in and, we are Nebraska nice and Omaha friendly and everybody likes us, maybe they'll stay here. If we can create more, we'll be able to keep some of our young people here. We don't have beaches, we don't have mountains. And so we need to do something to keep our young people here. And with more visitors, I hope that would lower our taxes, but we've had enough, no one wants to pay any more than what you have to. And we still want to provide excellent service. We have a great city. We can make this better. No, I don't want property taxes.
Very good. Thank you. Jeff, Patrick Leahy, taxes, property taxes. where do you
Hi.
stand on
Hi.
where they are and how to lower them, or
Hey,
do they need
you
to be
guys are
lowered at
breaking
all?
up sometimes. Am I breaking up?
So far we can hear you. Everybody hear Patrick all right? I think you're good. And just as I say that, we lose
Oh, I'm good.
Patrick.
All right, great.
There we go. Go ahead.
Property taxes.
Whoops.
Do you have me now?
Yes, we have you now. Go ahead, Patrick. Yes.
Okay, I got a strong signal, so I'm not sure what it is. Okay, property taxes, they're plenty high. I think we should look at ways to try to lower them, if anything, so they don't keep creeping up so people can stay in their home. I think the best ideas include attracting and retaining the best talent we have in the community to grow businesses, build, grow neighborhoods, so, because they have more people here, and spread the tax base over more people. Also, look at with TIF. I knew a little about tax increment financing and how it works, but I spent an hour on the phone with a former city planner to get to know exactly all the intricate parts. It doesn't come out of the general fund. We can use, depending on how it's used and how big of projects it's used, and which, if you do a full city block downtown, they only can use it, that reduced tax value for the first 10 or 15 years on infrastructure. And if the infrastructure is there, it could be used for other things like affordable housing, mass transit. That's a barrier to employment for a lot of people that could be paying more taxes. And then the more services we have, the more new products we have, the bigger the tax base. So that's part of, more factories, more construction. The more robust our economy is, the more employment we have, our taxes all could come down. And we could not have to start looking at reducing services. Most people want to reduce their taxes. Most people don't have a list of services they personally use already that they don't want to do. So we have to be creative. Very good. Kathleen,
Go
ahead, 2 minutes.
I would love to see the politician who says, no, my taxes are too low, let's pay more. I think we all agree, taxes are rough. 55% of those taxes are generally for the school budgets. And that is probably the main reason we picked where we live, because these schools are amazing and they do such a good job. And so for that, I say, you know what, I understand that this is what I got into. For the other parts of it, I do like TIF financing. I like it when it's used appropriately. And I think there are sometimes when so if you look at West Side School District, they have a lot of TIF projects around them. So they are continuously losing that tax base money that they would normally depend on. So I think we need to make sure when we approve it, we're not doing damage elsewhere that we might not see, because, it's a bright new shiny thing and it's awesome, but we need to make sure that the offset is not so much worse. So I think just judicious use of TIF is a very, very positive thing to do. And I love the idea of, growing the economy is incredible. And I would like to see us work with, the 18 to 24-year-olds, the ones who are most desperate to get out of Nebraska. And I'd like to do some sort of an internship program with businesses where we say, okay, for 2 years, you're going to have somebody who's going to bounce 3 to 6 months at each job as an intern to learn more about it. Because I think kids get out of high school, or even in high school, they don't know what they want to be. They think, okay, you're supposed to go to college, but for what? Then they incur a lot of debt and they don't really know why. So I think there are a lot of people who want to find out more about what we have to offer in Omaha. What are some of the jobs that we have? What do those jobs do? How can I get connected? And once you start connecting those 18 to 24-year-olds with business leaders and with people who are going to say, you know what, you're actually really good at this. Wouldn't you like to stay? Then we start building those networks for them. So there's a tether. Yeah, we don't have beaches and we don't have mountains. I kind of like to call this our best kept secret. I don't want to tell the people who have beaches and mountains how wonderful Omaha is. I always am like, yep, we're flyover country.
Okay.
I don't want them all to come here because
Thank you.
it is
Very
incredible
good.
here.
Thank you, Colleen. Or Kathleen. Colleen, property taxes. Where are you on property taxes? What would you do to offset a drop in property taxes if we were to create other revenue streams to lower the city's portion of what we collect from homeowners and business owners? What would you do? 2 minutes.
Okay, well, first of all, I think we need to keep our taxes low. That's what everybody wants. But I would support a review at the state level, not so much the city level. It's really difficult to sustain any support of tax reform at the city level. It's got to be at the state level. I wouldn't increase city taxes. I would support transparency. Let's figure out where our tax dollars are exactly going. Also, with regards to TIF, you know, if anybody been watching me on the city council, I have voted for TIF projects, and that is because 100% of the burden is placed not on the city of Omaha, it's placed on the developer. They're the one accruing the risk, not the city. There's no money lost in TIF. We're not giving people money. It's a deferment of tax payments. So those developments would not happen without this money. So my dream is to build Omaha into the world-class city it deserves to be. We all know what the potential for the city can be. We've got a little bit of everything here. Let's make it. Let's bring more people to the city. Let's develop it, and make it more attractive so that we can grow, and that will bring in the money that we need.
You each touched a little bit on TIF, and let's continue our discussion about tax increment financing, because it is an issue that many people either don't understand fully, or they believe it's directed not to truly blighted areas, which is what the actual TIF financing statute requires, but it has been used to provide for developers the opportunity to profit from an enhanced improvement of a specific district. And most recently, the Crossroads project was approved for approximately $80 million in TIF financing, which will ultimately become over $100 million when you consider interest over the next 30 years. We'll begin with Kathleen on this answer. When you talk about appropriate, and you mentioned appropriate use of TIF, what would be an inappropriate use of TIF, Kathleen Cow?
I think if there is not an area that's blighted, and we need to understand, what is the definition of blighted? Is it somewhere where the buildings are torn down, no one is living there, there are no businesses there, and the property tax is so low that it costs more for the infrastructure to be maintained than the property is actually valued? Then that is a blighted area. But I think when you start getting into neighborhoods that have good property taxes and have good systems, and again, when you start if you take something away from here, looking and seeing what it affects when you take it away, where are you pulling that money from, and just understanding that there are ramifications for that, and whether you balance it out in some other way, because the pros and cons list, I'm a big believer in making a list and figure out what are all the good, what are all the bad parts, and if the pros still outweigh the negatives, then you go ahead and you do it. Getting property developed is an important part of what the city council does, and making sure that it's safe and it's well lit and it's got great infrastructure and that people want to be there. I see what, if we don't take care of that property, we're going to start having donut holes. We'll have little donut holes going on throughout the city in different areas because people will avoid it. They won't have small businesses there because there won't be anybody there to buy their products. So we need to make sure that we're not getting those donut holes that start spreading out to the outside, and we make sure that those properties are built up within.
Colleen Brennan, you have been an outspoken supporter of this. As a city council person, you voted in favor of it. It will take approximately 30 years for the Crossroads development to pay back through tax increment financing what it will receive in its initial financing and interest. Conversely, the First National Bank Tower downtown has already paid off its tax increment financing borrow. Is every TIF financing project in your mind appropriate?
Of course not. You have to look at the whole situation. You have to make sure it is a blighted area. However, I disagree with Kathleen. When she describes you're taking money away from something in order to give it to TIF, that's inaccurate. That is not true. We're not taking money and putting it into anything. It's a rebate. It's a tax rebate. It's a deferred payment. So we're not losing money by allowing a TIF project to occur. What we're doing is we are giving a blighted area an opportunity to grow. We are saying, okay, we're going to support this deferred payment. And by the way, when you pay it, it's going to be at the full tax rate. It will be, say, 15 years down the road, say 15 years to reach that goal. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about what TIF really is and what it's used for. I 100% would agree that Crossroads was a blighted area. It has basically been abandoned for 11 years. That's a long time to not be able to make any money on prime property, right? It's the heartbeat of our city. That is the middle of Omaha right now. So we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to grow our community. But certainly I wouldn't say a development in the middle of, out in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of nowhere is a blighted area, because there's no infrastructure there yet. So
very good. Thank you, Colleen. Jeff Moore, TIF financing, pros, cons. Is any project in your view appropriate for tax increment financing, given what its aim is, and that is economic development?
Well, being on the planning board, we get to see these firsthand, just like we see them before Colleen votes on them. So the planning department for Omaha does an excellent job. Bridget Hadley down there, she works with these groups that want development projects to come in, and she says no to some of them. So we don't see all of those. The ones that do come to us are there to redevelop an area. We're not losing money, because if the project isn't able to be developed without the TIF money, then the project would never happen. And so we continue it for the Crossroads, for example. We'd continue to get $300,000, which is what we're going to continue to do until the project's developed and paid back. But we don't lose any money. And I like TIF as an economic development tool, because as the TOD is running along Dodge Street and we're redeveloping the Crossroads, for example, that's going to lead to additional housing, which has already started. It's going to lead to additional retail. It's going to develop more and more for the area, which is going to be hopefully walkable for a lot of people, or they can take the bus. The projects that come to us, a TIF is a misunderstood animal. People think that Omaha is just giving money to these developers, or that somehow the politicians are getting money back from the developers that we can give. It's a sordid mess, but TIF is a great tool to use. And if it makes sense, then I will continue to support those projects for the development of Omaha.
Don Rowe, TIF financing, you indicated you're a fan. Talk about what might look like an inappropriate project for TIF financing if it came across your desk.
Well, I don't know about an inappropriate one. I want to talk about a project in our district, if that's okay. It's very dear to my heart. I worked down at Millard Lumber for 25 years, and we wore that place out. We wore it out, and it became blighted. And I don't think there was any argument that it was blighted. And I don't think Jason Lanahaw would have done that project that he built down there if it hadn't been for the TIF financing. And so you drive by there today and you see this wonderful affordable, well, I don't know if it's affordable, but it's a housing project with apartments in a walkable neighborhood. You can walk down to the donut shop, the coffee house, the local restaurant, and it's one of the safest places in the neighborhood because the police department has their precinct right down there at the end of the block. And it's a great use of the product, and I think it makes sense. And I kind of get what Kathleen was saying. There's a risk that sometimes when the bright shiny penny is out there, people are going to migrate to that from another area, and then they have to figure out a way to compete. So I think I kind of get that. But the thing that's important to me is affordable housing. As people move into these bright shiny pennies of affordable housing, that's going to open up some other housing that's more affordable to one of my other neighbors that can't pay $1,500 or $1,800 a month for an apartment. Maybe $900 a month is more appropriate, and that freed up that property for them to be able to rent.
Very good. Destiny Stark, you indicated that you thought maybe perhaps the TIF financing provided for Crossroads could have been better served in other parts of town. Talk about your general view of TIF financing, how it's used, and what constitutes an inappropriate use beyond what you indicated before.
Sure. If we are using this TIF program and we are then building, say at Crossroads Mall, we're building these new housings. If you can't afford to live there though, and you work there, you go to school nearby, say you're over at UNO, it'd be a great location for UNO students to live. But if they can't to live there because it's not actually affordable housing for that area, it does us no good as a city to continue to pass that. We need to definitely make sure that we are doing truly affordable housing, which meets the current minimum wage in Nebraska, which is $9 an hour. If, like I said, if we can't afford it, if folks can't afford to live there, it does us no good to try to turn that space over or anywhere else. Yeah.
Very good. Patrick Leahy, TIF financing, you indicated a strong supporter of it. In your line of work, you see a lot of it. What would constitute an inappropriate use of TIF financing in Omaha, in your view? We need you to be unmuted, Patrick. There you go. There you go.
All right, let me make sure this other one's not picking me up. The TIF financing, there is people said West Omaha or new areas shouldn't be use the money. Most of these areas that it's used are blighted in some way or substandard. There has to be an increase in tax value because they freeze the current tax rate, and the difference to the future becomes something you make as a bond, and the developer has to pay that back. But they use it like a historic tax credit. It makes the project more affordable. And without the TIF money, the project wouldn't happen. They wouldn't be able to make their numbers work. So, and then like what's already been said, all the development in the area and surrounding area also comes up and pays more taxes. I was part of planning of Exarban Village, that team. So I understand how it can work well. I drive by Millard Lumber all the time going to work. What also makes that work so well is all those apartments, there's research that says more eyes on the street, that's what makes neighborhoods safer. Also, if you did a project downtown, you have streets around it. They all have all their sewers and their lights and their traffic signals, their street lights. They can't use all that TIF money on infrastructure. You can put that into other projects. One would be affordable housing. A great model of that is what's called missing middle. It's been around. The first one was done at Sarpy County down at 132nd and 370. And it builds in neighborhoods that want it, houses that look just like the neighborhood houses, but they have multiple tenants, and you can't tell until you realize they have more than one address and post office. And then things like Orbit and mass transit, more walkable neighborhoods. Anything we can do as a car alternative that gives affordable transportation helps people get to work, and it also that raises our tax base. So this is all tied together. And there's I spent an hour learning how this works because I heard a lot of people thought it was coming out of the general fund. It's money that doesn't exist. And they're making it work for them in order to make a project affordable.
Very good. Thank you very much, Pat. Now, let's move on to the public response to the pandemic, and we'll actually marry two of these last issues together, and that would be the impact of remote learning. Each of you are vying for a seat on the city council, and yet historically, city councils and city governments have kept their hands off of public education, as if it's not really my problem, it's the school board's problem. So don't talk to me about school issues. That's the school board's problem. And that's a punt, that's a kick down the road, kick of the can down the road. And it's time that the city of Omaha, don't you believe, becomes responsive to the school system and the behavior and actions of our public schools. So give us your view of what the public response has been to the pandemic in Omaha, and in your view, the impact of remote learning and what should be done, because it's clear based on incoming data that remote learning has had a devastating effect, especially on K through 6th graders. They are simply not retaining information, and in many cases, there's no accountability. So we begin with Jeff Moore. Jeff, talk about the public response to the pandemic in Omaha, and as a city council person using the bully pulpit of District 5, what would you do to address the devastating effect of remote learning on our public school kids, specifically OPS kids? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, this is such an unprecedented event that I'm not sure that the school boards knew exactly what they were dealing with when this all started. I've got friends that are on Millard School Board, Omaha School Board, Westside School Board, and those folks lost sleep at night trying to make decisions on whether to get their kids back to school. They have, some of them have kids, or to keep this as a remote learning situation. Obviously, remote learning is not good for the well-being of the kids. They don't have any socialization. They can't get additional help very easily. They can't learn together. And so we don't know what the impacts will be for maybe the next few years as kids continue to work on their education. Now, what would I do differently as a city council member? I don't know that we have the say-so to override what the Omaha School Board does, especially Omaha School Board. It's the largest school board. I don't know if that's a state legislative thing that they would say that, you know, in a city, you now have control over what the schools say. That would be a completely new animal for me. And if it did, if I had any say in it, Jim, and to the people out there, I would like to get the kids back to school. Wear the mask, you know, get involved with things. We've had some sports, we've had some schools not have sports, and it's been tough. And I feel for the kids, the families, and I feel for the school board members that have to make these rough decisions. And but I would love to see the kids get back to school as soon as possible.
I'll pose this question to the other candidates too. Jeff, would you advocate for year-round school for at least the next 2 years to catch up on what was lost during the pandemic?
Yes, I would.
Very good. To Don, pandemic and the effect of the particular devastating effect, the impact of remote learning, what would you say about the public response in Omaha? And if you were a city council person, what would you do? What would you say to the families of Omaha school children who have had a valuable part of their education lost because of remote learning?
I would say that I'm very empathetic, and I understand the issue. I have children, grandchildren, I guess, that are in different school districts, and you can see in their faces the ones that are going in their normal routine, that are keeping their normal routine, are not having the problems that the ones that are being disrupted. I have some kids that are grandkids that are homeschooled, and so, you know, they're remote learning all the time, so it's not a big deal. I'm kind of with Jeff. I don't think we really have an opportunity to have much say in how that's going to go. I think I appreciate what Millard Public Schools did. I think they are a model, and I'm not just saying that because I live in the district, but I think if OPS and Elkhorn and Ralston and all of them had followed the model that Millard had done, I think we'd had better outcomes. And maybe that's just the luck of the draw, or maybe that's just wisdom of our leadership. I'm not sure which, but I appreciate what they're doing as well.
Would you advocate for year-round school for the next 2 years to allow OPS kids to catch up?
No, I don't think so. I think I would just, I think I'd hold our teachers accountable to get them caught up and try to be less disruptive, not be disruptive, but get back to a normal routine.
Destiny Stark, your view of the public response to the pandemic in Omaha, and in particular, the impact of remote learning has had on Omaha public school kids. 2 minutes.
I actually was able to help a couple of my friends with serving as a remote learning instructor for their kids when OPS had originally announced that they were going to do remote learning for a questionable amount of time. So I do empathize with the struggle that working parents are going through during this time over the past year of trying to balance your work life, your needs as a parent, and what your kids' needs are. I don't think that, I think that since we are broken up into a variety of districts within Omaha, that say it's an OPS situation, I would then consult with the other council members. I would try to reach out to anyone in those districts and ask their views and opinions on what they need for their kids or their families. So I'm sure you're going to ask this, so I'll just go ahead and answer it. The school year round, once again, that'd also be me reaching out to other folks and finding out what they need. I was working with kindergartners, so I know that they had not had that experience prior of being in school aside from their preschool, which their situations were different maybe than other kids. You know, if you're at home versus in a daycare center, they're totally different experiences. So I think that we need to make sure that we are working with the other districts and their council members before we make decisions that maybe don't impact our constituents directly.
Colleen Brennan, your response to the pandemic, you were a little bit of it as the appointed member of the city council, but prior to your appointment, what's your view of how the city handled the pandemic and the impact of remote learning on Omaha public school kids? 2 minutes.
Sure. So it was a big unknown, right? When the pandemic hit, nobody knew how we were going to handle, how are we going to manage this? We didn't know anything about COVID. We didn't really understand what the impact was going to be. So I think we did the best we could with the information we had at the time. However, moving forward, it's time to get back to some normalcy. Our kids need to be in school, period. They need to be in school every day. Remote learning, being a parent of 2 kiddos still in Millard public schools, I can tell you it has been a challenge. I am 100% supportive of our teachers. I think we need to get them vaccinated. I think that we need to work towards, I've got a plan to phase out the mask mandate. At the time, I voted for it. For extending it. Now I'm seeing the numbers, they're coming down dramatically. It's time to phase out of that. And I've been working with Brinker Harding and Amy Melton on that issue. And I think we need to vaccinate our teachers. We need to get kids back in school full time, and we need to get back to normalcy. And no, I would not support year-round school because our kids have been through enough. Let's let them have summer.
Kathleen Cow. The public response to the pandemic and the impact of remote learning on Omaha school kids. What would you say to those families? Oh, we need you to unmute. There we go. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay.
There you are.
I agree with Colleen that, at the beginning, we had no idea what we were dealing with. But as information has come in, we are responsible to react to new information and adjust accordingly. I think there was a huge amount of fear, and a lot of kind of panic and hysteria about what will we possibly do. And I think we need to be very careful with that, especially when we're dealing with kids. When we scare kids and tell them, okay, we must stay inside, not go anywhere, not do anything, we're not teaching appropriate risk assessment. So as we've learned more and more about COVID and about the treatments that are available and how to handle it, we need to make sure that kids are hearing, okay, there are things we can do. As a kid, I am nowhere near at risk. Somebody who's older than 75, they're at risk because there are so many kids who are so afraid that they were going to kill grandma. And I mean, the messages that we send to kids is really important in how they develop and how they learn how to do those risk assessments. So I'm so pleased with Millard School Districts, and I talked with Dr. Sutphin quite a bit as they were making this decision. I don't, the mask all day, I get concerned about 8 hours of mask, but the benefit of being there in school, doing activities and figuring it out. And the schools that have gone back have figured out how to make it work. My son is on swim team. And so the kids had routines like how you walk, where you go when you put it on. We adjusted accordingly. And I think it is time to continue pulling back from that. As far as year-round school, so I've kind of always been a proponent of year-round school with the same amount of break time, but split up a little bit, because the summer brain drain is a huge problem. Kids stop in end of May and they don't start up again until September. They forget a lot of stuff. My kids always had summer assignments and they're like, oh, come on. But they lost less stuff. So I like the idea of a year-round school program with the same amount of breaks spread throughout.
Patrick Leahy, for you, the public response to the pandemic, what are you happy? Do you have differences of what was done? And overall, if you had the opportunity to conduct policy on the impact of remote learning, what would it be? 2 minutes.
Number one, I want to praise what the Millard superintendent did, keeping people in school. I want to praise what the city council has done so far, the majority instituting the mask mandate. I work a lot with hospital administrators and department heads. I would look to caregivers and find out when the appropriate time is to quit wearing a mask. They know how it was transferred. They will tell us when it's safe to do so. I would not make it a political issue. I keep it a healthcare issue. Supporting school year round, I'd want to check with teachers and students. It might be great for families. It might be tough for students. My daughter is a preschool teacher and a special needs preschool teacher, and she uses the summer to rest, recharge, and plan her next year. My wife runs a daycare. When some of those kids came that were in school, it was very tough to keep them focused when they're young, 5, 6, 7 years, kindergarten, first grade. Very difficult. It's great if we can keep them in school. It's the best way to do it. I have 3 kids in college, and 2 of those 3 struggled when they went 100% remote. Myself, I was doing Zoom meetings before. Now I just do too many of them. So it wasn't as bad for me.
Very good. Well, we've now come to the part of our debate here tonight, our discussion here tonight, where we will take observations from those who may be in with us. And we do have a question or two, and this will be 1 minute, a 1 minute answer for each of you. Isn't the reference to defunding the police misleading? As I understand it, the idea is less about reducing police expenditures than about diverting some of the existing police budget to areas such as mental health aids, community policing, youth programs, et cetera, that help reduce the need for direct police intervention. Aren't we already doing something of that sort here in Omaha? Let's start with Don Rowe. Don, 1 minute.
My understanding is that we added some healthcare providers, but they were added on top of the existing budget. So we didn't cut any dollars out of our regular police force to be able to add those 4 or 5 mental health providers that I think they call them co-responders. So I think that's been fine. I just don't want to defund. I don't want to have one less cruiser on the road or one less officer on the beat for that. If we need to spend additional money, I think that's okay, and I think that's what we did.
Destiny Stark, 1 minute.
I do believe that a lot of folks misunderstand, or there's not one definition that we all seem to agree on as to what defund the police means. To me, that means that we do divert a little bit more of the funds to mental health experts or others. A great program that we can look at is STAR out of Colorado. There's a few other programs throughout the country where the police actually are now calling them and saying, hey, this will fall into your wheelhouse. We'll leave the scene. We don't want to escalate it. So that is currently successful, and they're actually expanding it. So we definitely need to look at that. There was something about it, but locally, we've not seen that impact yet to divert those funds and make sure that we are paying more attention to mental health, especially over the past year, where so many folks that maybe wouldn't typically have mental health now are experiencing it. And I see you're trying to give me the wrap up.
Thank you. To those who are on this Zoom with us, just go ahead and direct message and we will ask your question during this segment. But now let's get that answer from Colleen Brennan. Are we already doing something of the sort here with the diverting some of the budget, the police budget, to other community programs? Colleen, 1 minute.
My question would be, Destiny, if there's a misunderstanding about what defunding the police is, I'd like to know what it is. If there isn't one definition as to what that is, I want to know what the definition is. I can't say I support something if I don't understand it. So what I will tell you is I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in funding them as much as we possibly can. We need to support them. We need to make sure that their needs are met. We need to make sure that they have all of the equipment they need, and we need to allocate funds to mental health care. I mean, I don't think it's not one or the other. It's both. We've got to do both of those things, and I think we're doing a pretty darn good job.
Kathleen Kauth, 1 minute.
Am I muted?
Yeah, you're good.
There we go. All right. No, I would agree with Colleen on that. You can't agree with something or disagree with something unless you have the definition. When I hear defund the police, I hear take money away from police to use for something else. And you cannot take money away from police who are doing such an exceptional job as our Omaha Police Department is doing. They're responsive to the community. They get involved. They're making changes as needed, and they're adjusting to some incredibly difficult situations. And I think the addition of the social workers as the co-responders is a great addition. I know that they're testing it out right now. So we need to make sure that the police officers and those co-responders are working well together, that they're able to develop a team, that they understand each other's roles, that if it's, you know, a dicey situation, a social worker doesn't try to step in and fix something that could be exceptionally dangerous. So I think both sides need to understand what the skill sets are that they bring to the table and work together to complement each other. But I believe that any social workers, any mental health needs to be in addition to the police force.
Patrick Leahy.
Thank you. I agree with some of the stuff that's been said. Number one, I hated that whole term defund the police. It was an extreme idea, a bad idea, and overreaction. Number one, I would spend more money on training officers, try to develop some of them as behavioral health experts so they can assess when they meet somebody on the street and reacting to a call, or bring a behavioral health expert with them if it's not something, if it's outside their wheelhouse. That really, we have to talk to the police about that, see what works for them. All challenges that we have, whether they're this one or others, we should look at other cities, what they're doing that has, and what the results are. If there's evidence and data that something is working, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can borrow that from another city. A lot of the greatest businesses in the country do that. Plus they come up with their own new ideas on top of that. So that's that in short.
Jeff Moore, defunding the police. Are we sort of already doing something of the sort now in Omaha? What's your definition?
Well, there's so many definitions of that, but my definition of defunding the police is taking money away from the police officers and using it for something else. I've never seen a problem fixed by reducing the amount of money on a project. Now, if it was up to me, and I hope to make that decision, I would like to see additional training for our police officers. I don't want to make them social workers. I want them to protect us. Every Omahan deserves to be safe and have safe neighborhoods. Now, if we reduce the amount of people that are out there patrolling, we're going to have more problems. And so what I'd like to see is more of the healthcare people and social workers that they have. But I'm afraid for those people if they're going out on an initial call with the police officers. They may need to come in as backup later on if the police diffuse the situation. But to take these people out or send them out instead of police is a mistake. And I'd be afraid for my life to go to a situation that no police are involved with.
Very good. Thank you. Another question, and 1 minute each, please. Do you support unification of Douglas County and the city of Omaha? And to you, what would that mean in practical terms? Colleen Brennan, you're first.
A really good question, and I spoke to the person who proposed that idea. I think it's really interesting. I think it would be interesting to have, instead of having commissioners and a city council, to have one body. It would certainly save the city money. So I'm not opposed to it. I really would want to learn more about it though before I give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because I think it's still it's a new idea. It's worked for other cities. I don't see that it wouldn't help Omaha. So I'm not opposed to it. I just want to learn more about it first.
Kathleen Kaup, the unification of Douglas County and the city of Omaha, to you, what would that mean, good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm opposed to it. I've talked with a couple of people, and one of the things that they pointed out is that Douglas County and Omaha have complementary roles. So the sheriff's department is run out of Douglas County. The police officers are run out of Omaha. They already have a very good working relationship among a lot of the different departments, and it seems to be working well. And I don't know that the thought of creating a giant behemoth of bureaucracy is actually going to save us money. So I think, it sounds like it'd be a great idea because you think, condensing and consolidating always saves you money, but I don't think that's necessarily true. So I would prefer that they continue to find ways to work together and to serve complementary roles to each other.
Thank you. Patrick Leahy, do you support the unification of Douglas County and the city of Omaha? And to you, what would that mean?
Unification is not a new idea. It's been out for a while. Last time it came up, a lot of things that they could save on, they already did. One of them is the 911 response center. the training facilities for police and fire. We've done a lot of things already to take care of some of that savings. And having one political board, somebody say, oh yeah, we'd say, we'd have to go to a 10-person board instead of a 5 and a 7. What was already, Kathleen already says, they do complementary things. And I want to make sure that we have enough elected officials to get that community input. The county, besides doing the sheriff and having their own roads versus public works and police and sheriff, they also take care of the county hospital. The city doesn't have anything like that. So they're very complementary. They do different things. And I think what they're still doing separately has been working pretty well.
Jeff Moore, unifying Douglas County and the city of Omaha. What would that look like to you?
Well, at this time, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that we have the Omaha Police, the Douglas County Sheriff. Where would we save money at? We have a public works department, they have one. I don't see how putting them together is going to save a substantial amount of money. And in these day and ages, I guess substantial is a term that, we may need to look at, but I don't think it's going to save us much money to go through all this to have one system. I'm not in favor of it.
Don Rowe, unification of Douglas County and the city of Omaha. What are the pluses and or minuses, if there are?
What Patrick said.
Okay.
I studied that when I was in college, and that's been a few years ago. So it has been an issue. And I think where those efficiencies are appropriate, they've already been done. And I really don't see potential for the upside. I think we just leave it the way it is. I really am. I agree with Patrick.
And I like you. Thank you.
So we already
Careful,
see
he's going to ask you to vote for you.
Yeah, now we see camps now merging. We're building a political base here. And Destiny Stark, talk about, in your view, do you support the unification of Douglas County and the city of Omaha? And if so, what would that mean in your view?
The most recent proposal that I saw, I believe, was a write-up in the Omaha World Herald, or I could be confusing, where I've read information. I don't agree with it. I've served on boards that are both big and small, and I currently serve on boards that are both big and small. And when you have that many folks in one room at one time, someone is not going to be able to voice how they're representing their constituents, or, even with time, you still have someone that's not going to be able to ask their question, because we're going to have to move on to the next agenda item at some point. Otherwise, the meeting's going to last 6 hours, and no one wants that. That will not have folks come and engage with us as we need.
Very good. Thank you. Well, we've now come to our last segment, which means each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for a closing statement and a plea to the voters of District 5 to advance them through the primary on April the 6th into the May general election. So let's begin with Jeff Moore. Jeff, 2 minutes, closing statement, please.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate this forum very much. And I just want to talk to the people that are out there at this point that haven't made up their minds. I am going to ask you to become involved in the politics of your local government. We need people to vote. Typically, there's 25% turnout on local elections, which is disastrous. You have this right to vote. Go out and pick a candidate, follow them, and support them. And whether it's walking for them, calling for them, donating to them, be involved in your local government, because if you don't, you may not get the person that you kind of thought would win. Now, I am running because I have experience with the planning board that I think has given me a tremendous amount of ability to move on into city council. I am a true supporter of the Omaha Fire and Police departments. I want to see us develop more down in the downtown area so that we can bring more people to Omaha. And I would like to see more of a district for Millard. I've talked to some of the bar and restaurant owners about working together to get people to come to Millard, just as they would go to Benson or to Blackstone or Dundee or Capital District, which are all great areas. They have a little parking problem. We have no parking problems, but we need to work together to get people to come to Millard.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank
Jeff. We
you.
appreciate that. 2 minutes to Colleen Brennan, a closing statement, 2 minutes, Colleen.
I'm already in the office. You've been able to see how I work with the other council members and what I already bring to the table. A few years ago, what 2013, so it's been more than a few years ago, I was instrumental in getting an autism insurance mandate passed at the state level. And I am a natural born problem solver. I raised a son who's profoundly disabled. He was nonverbal and he had autism and he had epilepsy. And I had to learn how to solve his problems. I listened. Having an insurance background helps, because as an insurance agent, your number one job is needs assessment. You have to figure out what somebody needs and define the problem and solve it. So I would encourage people to go to my website, check out what I believe in, and I really hope that you will vote for me.
Thank you, Colleen. Don Rowe, 2 minutes, closing statement, please.
Thanks. My hope is that Omaha continues to grow and develop into a city that is welcoming, safe, and affordable. My neighbors are hardworking people that want to make a good life for themselves and their families. They want to have a good job that will allow them to provide for their family. They want to have a place to call home where their families can feel safe and secure. They want their neighborhoods to be safe, their parks to be safe, their workplaces to be safe, and their places of worship to be safe. And they want their schools to be safe. A strong police force and responsive fire department is going to be welcomed by my neighbors. They want to enjoy a night out now and then where they can enjoy a meal with family, friends, coworkers. So vibrant, accessible entertainment options are important to us. Our people are willing to pay taxes to fund city services, but they want to know they're getting good value for their money. No one likes to see waste. Smooth, drivable roads and prompt trash service are an expectation. I want to be a part of making that happen in the future of Omaha. You can find out about me at Don Rowe for Omaha on my Facebook page or donroweomaha.com. It's ROWE, omaha.com.
Thank you, Don. Closing statement from Destiny Stark, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I have been working for the past year to advocate for the needs of my union Ken by talking to elected officials on multiple levels, from state to in Washington, making sure that their needs are being met. And I will bring that same advocacy to represent District 5. The individual needs of District 5 residents knows no limit. The limit is who is elected to represent and who is actively working to advocate and assist the needs to provide better opportunities that will lift our entire community, not just District 5, but everywhere else in Omaha as well. When we leave folks behind in any part of our city, we are failing our residents. So just as I work for the body of my local, I will work for District 5 and all of Omaha. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email me at starkforcouncil. And I also have a donation link on all my social medias.
Very good. Thank you so much, Destiny. Kathleen Kauf, 2 minutes.
So as a mediator and a conflict coach, I deal with conflict on a daily basis, getting people to talk to each other and finding little things that they can agree with and build on that. That's the key to working through problems. So people think conflict is a bad thing. Conflict is just that meeting point where there's a difference of opinions. And I think sometimes people get really rooted in their side or their side. What we need to do is say, hey, we have a difference of opinion. Let's talk it out. Let's figure out what's the best way to go. And that is my strongest skill set, is getting people to talk together, to see things just a little bit differently. When you shift someone's viewpoint, creative solutions appear, and getting people to work together to get those creative solutions is what I do best. I would really like it if people would get involved with politics. I know some people are sick of it. They're done. My 17-year-old son is like, I know more. I don't want to hear anything more about it. But getting involved is the only way to get things solved. And so if you're sitting there saying, gosh, you know what? I never want to do anything with politics, but yet I want everything, to happen. There are plenty of positions on the Douglas County Republican Party where you can get involved, and it doesn't have to be incredible amounts of time, but it can give you a voice and it can give you information about how the system works. And I think that's incredibly empowering. So don't just go out and vote, actually get involved with your party and see what you can do to make things even just a little bit better. If everybody does a little bit and makes it a little bit better, we're going to see incredible growth in Omaha. And I want Omaha to continue to be strong and resilient and grow successfully. Oh, and you can find me at couthforcouncil.com.
Very good. Thank you, Kathleen. And Patrick Leahy, closing statement, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jim Rose. Thank you for the whole evening. It's been great. I would bring strategic planning to all services and work, get plans in place before the problems have, and then so you don't have to be as reactive as many. More listening sessions and input availability to get community input citywide. One thing that a lot of caregivers talk about, teachers and businesses say, is routine and consistency. It's good for kids, it's good for business. Let's keep the schools open, let's keep businesses open. Create more commercial centers, restaurant, entertainment. Bottom line, city services at work, fix the potholes faster, enhance economic development, protect the health and safety of all citizens of Omaha. And my website is leahyforcitycouncil.com. Like was said by Jeff, we need the help. Get involved, walk, call, donate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to all of you for dedicating your time in the service of the community, for running for office, for sticking your neck out, spending a lot of time that you could be doing maybe more enjoyable things. The community appreciates this. Our primary election is April the 6th. The general election is May the 11th. On behalf of the Southwest Omaha Neighborhood Association, News Radio 1110 KFB, this is Jim Rose. Thank you to all of you. Good luck in this campaign, and thank you for being a part of it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Mike.